More nations are detaining American citizens under questionable charges and circumstances. A report by the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation says between 2001 and 2005, only 4 countries held U.S. nationals. They're considered wrongfully detained. Right now, 19 countries are doing so. For more, we are joined in the KCBS Ring Central Newsline by Cynthia Loertscher, Director of Research, Hostage Advocacy, and Legislative Affairs at the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation, who authored the study. Thank you so much for your time. It's really scary stuff, though. What do you think is behind the uptick in countries wrongfully detaining U.S. citizens?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a very good question. From what we're seeing today, right now, there are 64 Americans that are currently either held hostage or wrongfully detained, and their detainment on average has been lasting for over 4 years. In addition to that, 90% of those cases, those are Americans that are being held by foreign governments instead of the traditional hostage situation where we understand them being held by terrorist organizations or militant groups. So there's a difference there. But today we're seeing 75% of U.S. nationals currently wrongfully detained are being held in Iran, China, Venezuela, Syria, and Russia. And, if you think about it, those are countries that we don't have necessarily the best relationships with them. We have complicated relationships, complicated foreign policies, and unfortunately, those are countries that are using innocent Americans. They're either targeted or they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they're held because they have blue passports.
Blue passports meaning what?
That they're American citizens. They see them as an opportunity to be able to hold them and be able to either try to affect change in U.S. policy, force some form of concession, or even force a prisoner swap.
Okay, so why the shift from groups that used to take Americans from terrorist groups to foreign countries?
Correct. Right. Yes. And, with foreign countries, it's an alarming trend. And the question is why? And what we're seeing is, yes, there is an increase of Americans that are being wrongfully detained by these foreign countries. There's been an increase of 175% in the last decade. But what's really alarming is the fact that the number of Americans that continue to be held over the last decade has increased by 580%. So it's been a cumulative growth. And what we're seeing is less Americans are coming home. So what we really need to see happen is more creative ways to work to negotiate and bring these Americans home.
Is there a way that the UN can step in? Are these human rights violations where the UN could maybe get some leverage and get some of our Americans home?
That's a very good question. A lot of these Americans that are held do have that they have been determined by the UN and they're arbitrarily detained. It's very important. But another step in this is holding these countries accountable. And, there's a program in the United States where you can sanction individual terrorists. And the UN also does the same thing. And what happens is you freeze assets. You freeze assets globally. And in addition to that, you can restrict travel. So one way for the UN to be able to increase the accountability is to partner or think of programs like that to partner with the United States to hold these individuals accountable that are wrongfully detaining not only Americans, but UK citizens, citizens from Canada, Australia. We're seeing it globally.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. You're, at least getting the conversation going about the increase in these wrongfully detained Americans. Cynthia Loertscher, Director of Research, Hostage Advocacy, and Legislative Affairs at the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation.